What if the person who most excites you is also the one most capable of hollowing you out? What if your desire isn't about love, but about pain you haven't confronted? In 1920, Freud wrote something that nearly destroyed his reputation. He suggested that the human psyche isn't driven solely by the pursuit of pleasure, but also by a secret compulsion toward repetition, suffering, and self-sabotage. He called it the death drive. This one insight rewrote everything we thought we knew about attraction. Because if you think attraction is about compatibility, you've already lost. You don't fall for who's good for you. You fall for what's familiar. You fall for the pattern, for the wound, for the unfinished script buried deep in your psyche. You call it chemistry, but Freud would call it repetition compulsion, the invisible force that draws you back, again and again, to what feels just like home, even if home was chaos. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. Sigmund Freud. This video is a journey beneath the mask of attraction to expose the drives, delusions, and dynamics you've mistaken for truth. And it starts here, with a man's realization that what he wants is not always what he needs, that his hunger is often haunted, that his taste in women may be shaped not by logic or virtue, but by trauma. This is not about blaming women. This is about breaking your own chains. Because once you understand why you're drawn to who you're drawn to, you're no longer enslaved by it. This is the hidden psychology of attraction. And it's time to remember what the world forced you to forget. Freud didn't believe that love and lust were simply appetites. He believed they were manifestations of two ancient forces buried deep within the human soul. Eros, the life force, and Thanatos, the death drive. To understand why we desire who we do, you must understand this duality. Eros is the principle of life, bonding, pleasure, creation. It's what draws you toward connection, beauty, unity. It's the force that says, merge, grow, build. This is the engine of attraction most men understand, or think they understand. But hidden in the shadows is Thanatos, the drive not just to destroy others, but to destroy oneself. A psychic gravity that pulls you toward chaos, toward repetition, toward dissolution. The urge to return to nothingness, to lose yourself. And here's the terrifying truth. Attraction is not driven by Eros alone. You are drawn to what will complete you, but also to what may consume you. This is why men chase women who remind them of chaos, of abandonment, of emotional volatility. Because the psyche doesn't seek peace, it seeks resolution. And if your earliest emotional blueprint was unstable, your subconscious will crave instability. According to Freud and Beyond the Pleasure Principle, the aim of all life is death. This is not nihilism, it's recognition. Think of the man obsessed with the woman who humiliates him. The man who clings to the one who withholds affection. This isn't just weakness. It's a subconscious enactment of an old story. He's not attracted to her. He's attracted to what she activates. The wounded child, the unresolved memory, the unhealed fracture. Modern culture tells men to pursue pleasure, but Freud warns us, not all pleasure is life-giving. Some of it is simply the anesthetic that numbs the pain of truth. And in this pain lies the secret. Because when you realize that you're not chasing her, but chasing the return to a known emotional state, you begin to reclaim your freedom. Attraction is not benign. It is a battlefield between your conscious desire and your unconscious script. You will either be pulled by Eros to build your soul, or dragged by Thanatos to repeat your ruin. The question isn't, what do I want? The question is, what in me wants it, and why? Every man begins his story with a woman, not a lover, a mother. She is the first mirror, the first touch, the first voice. Before a boy knows what a woman is, he knows her through the womb, through milk, through care, or its absence. And whatever she was, nurturing or cold, present or unpredictable, she becomes the mold. Freud called this the Oedipal complex, and it's been widely misunderstood. It doesn't mean a man literally wants his mother. It means that his idea of love, his blueprint of connection, is first written in the emotional language of that bond. If she was overbearing, he may later crave control. If she was absent, he may pursue the emotionally unavailable. If she loved with strings, he may confuse manipulation for affection. The first love object for the male child is always the mother. Freud. This is not pop psychology. This is psychoanalysis at its core. A man's deepest attractions are not rational. They are emotional imprints, echoes of the first relationship he never chose, but could never escape. The tragedy? Most men never examine this. They chase the same woman into different bodies, over and over, unaware that what they want is not a person, but the closure of a childhood wound. This is why the woman who ignores him holds more power than the one who loves him. Why the unpredictable woman intoxicates him more than the loyal one. It's not about her. It's about him. He's trying to win the affection he couldn't win then. To control the chaos he couldn't control then. To fix the bond he couldn't fix then. Modern dating advice tells men to be confident. But how can a man be confident when he's still a boy inside, longing for a mother's gaze, a mother's touch, a mother's approval? Until he confronts that longing, he will remain her son, not his own man. This is the mother wound, and it is the most invisible force in a man's romantic life. Not because she cursed him, but because he never rewrote the script. To be free is to see the pattern, and to see it is to finally begin choosing instead of repeating. She doesn't need to lie. She doesn't need to seduce with words. She doesn't even need to understand what she's doing. Her gaze, her walk, her silence, all of it speaks to something ancient in the man. Not to his ego, but to his ache. Not to his intellect, but to his fracture. Freud never described woman as a deceiver. He described her as a mystery, a projection screen, a vessel for unconscious desire. A man who has been the indisputable favorite of his mother keeps for life the feeling of a conqueror. Sigmund Freud. And yet, what happens to the man who wasn't the favorite? What about the man whose mother was distant, cold, or inconsistent? He carries a different energy into the world. Not the feeling of a conqueror, but of an unfinished child searching for completion. This is where the siren call emerges. In mythology, the sirens sang songs so beautiful, so irresistible, that they lured men to their deaths. The men heard what they longed to hear, not what was true. This is precisely what Freud meant when he wrote about transference. the act of displacing feelings from early relationships onto current ones, especially romantic ones. You see her. She sees you. But neither of you are fully present. You see a chance to be redeemed, to be wanted, to finally be chosen. And you call this attraction. But it is not attraction. It is compulsion. It is not about her. It is about you. The problem is, the siren doesn't need to intend harm. She just needs to echo the pattern you've always known. Her unpredictability, her aloofness, her tenderness, followed by withdrawal. These are not her weapons. They are your triggers. Because the man who has not healed his past cannot hear reality. He only hears the echo of the past, and the echo always promises closure. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. Freud. So, what does the modern man do? He worships, he pursues, he attaches, but not because of who she is, but because of who he hopes she will become. The mother who never withheld, the affection that never vanished, the voice that never accused. And so, he tries to win her over, not as a man, but as a boy. And she feels this intuitively, not consciously, but energetically. She begins to pull back. He chases harder. The cycle intensifies. Attraction then becomes a test, not of charm, but of clarity. Not of game, but of groundedness. It would be one thing if this illusion only lived in your childhood, if the ache stopped with the mother, but it doesn't. It follows you. And then it finds reinforcement from films, from love songs, from novels, from marketing, from spiritual quotes dressed in poetic half-truths. The message: to be a man is to be chosen, to win her, to serve her, to prove yourself worthy of her affection, her softness, her body. She is the prize. You are the pursuer. This isn't attraction. This is indoctrination. It's a cultural hypnosis. One Freud would likely call a mass neurosis, a collective delusion built on projection and fear of rejection. Modern men are taught to suppress their instincts, their discernment, and their standards in exchange for one thing: female validation. This is the spell. The spell that says, be nice, be pleasing, be non-threatening, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be loved. But notice what's missing: clarity, confrontation, direction, self-possession. No one teaches the man how to stand in himself. No one tells him that being loved is not the same as being respected. Instead, he is fed images: the romantic hero who saves her and is redeemed, the boy who never grows up but still wins the princess, the sufferer whose pain finally earns him the reward. But what if the reward is the trap? What if all this cultural noise is designed to keep him small, to keep him dependent, to reward his self-abandonment with moments of hope, flashes of affection, and the illusion of connection? Because the man who is constantly seeking approval is easily manipulated. He's easy to sell to, easy to shame, easy to control. Even the so-called empowerment movements for men end up circling the same orbit: how to get her, how to keep her, how to make her want you. But none of these ask the real question: Should she even be in your frame to begin with? A few moments of attention followed by emotional exhaustion. A smile that costs your integrity. A body that comes with a leash. This is not the feminine. This is the cultural fantasy of her. And the man who wakes up to this, he doesn't become bitter. He becomes clear. He no longer consumes the fantasy. He begins to build his standard. If the modern man is to escape the spell, he must stop asking, "What does she want?" and begin asking, "Why do I need to be wanted so badly?" This was Freud's original insight. Not that men should reject women, but that men should confront their unconscious attachments to them. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. Sigmund Freud. Freud didn't teach men to suppress desire. He taught them to question its origin. He didn't demonize attraction. He tried to expose its deeper function. Attraction, in his view, was rarely just about the present. It was the re-emergence of childhood needs, unmet wounds, and emotional residues. So the real battle is not with women. It is with the inner boy who believes that her validation completes him, that her affection defines his worth, that her love is his arrival point. This is not love. It is regression. It is emotional time travel, and the modern man keeps looping through it, wondering why no woman can ever truly satisfy him. The answer? She was never meant to, and she can feel that, because a woman's intuition is not verbal. It is energetic. She knows when she is being seen clearly, and when she is being used as a mirror for a man's broken self-perception. The path forward is not rejection of the feminine, but reorientation of the self. The man must return to center, to his standard, to his clarity, to his value, independent of her attention, her approval, or her availability. And this is what Freud tried to teach beneath all his theories, that self-confrontation is not optional, that your unconscious, left unchecked, will ruin your life with your permission. You'll keep chasing women who wound you. You'll keep romanticizing dysfunction. You'll keep calling chaos chemistry, until you stop, until you look inward, until you grieve the illusions. Because the return to center is not a movement of pride. It is a movement of grief. You mourn the years spent waiting to be seen. You mourn the masks you wore to be liked. You mourn the little boy who tried so hard, and then you begin again as a man. The tragedy of the modern man isn't that he desires, it's that he forgets. He forgets who he is before the fantasy. He forgets what he stood for before her gaze. He forgets that no woman can ever give him what he refuses to become for himself. Attraction was never the enemy. Illusion was. Because attraction, in its pure form, is a force. It calls the man into form. It challenges him to refine, to elevate, to embody. But when attraction is fused with amnesia, when he forgets his center, his standard, his sovereignty, then that same force becomes a leash. It tames him, it weakens him, it empties him. And this, Freud warned, is not love. It is repetition compulsion. And this is the man's crossroads, to keep worshiping the fantasy of her, or to become the man she could never define. One path ends in bitterness, the other in authorship. The man who forgets himself will always be betrayed, not by women, but by his own abandonment of truth. But the man who remembers, the man who traces his ache to its source, who sees the illusions and walks through them, he cannot be controlled. He does not reject the feminine. He integrates it. He sees her clearly, desires her honestly, but does not collapse in her presence, because he no longer sees her as God. He no longer sees himself as boy. He is man, aligned, sovereign, disciplined, and finally, free. So if you're watching this is your invitation to stop scrolling through faces and start confronting your story. To stop asking what she wants and start remembering who you are. Subscribe if this hit home. And above all, choose to see before it's too late.